Hi, I'm Ron Green, and this is Course Crash, a fun new series that we're going to do to teach students about important times in history. Today we're going to talk about a very special part of American history, imperialism. First of all, what is imperialism? Let me first talk to you about isolationism. Isolationism was a time in U.S. history where America was sort of closed off from the rest of the world. Large European powers had a kind of hostile attitude toward the Americans during and after the Civil War. Combine this with the American anger due to indignities that they suffered during the Revolution and the Napoleonic War, and that pretty much creates isolationism for you. In the late 1800s, all of this began to change. Americans had explored pretty much all of the Western territory, and they were yearning for more. Social Darwinists also had an important role in this, saying that the American democratic system of the government was so clearly the world's fittest that it was destined to spread peacefully over every land on the Earth's surface. That quote was from Mark Carnes and John Garrity, American Destiny. A great read, you should go check it out. In addition to all of that, America's big economic boom that happened around this time caused big businesses to look outwards for more customers and therefore more profits. Anyway, the United States began to break from isolationism and focused on more foreign affairs and expansion. It was all like, hey, I know we haven't talked to anyone in quite a long time, but now guess what? I'm your new best friend. We're talking about Latin America, Hawaii, Cuba, the Philippines, and China. But I mainly want to talk to you about Central America and Panama. The Spanish-American War in 1898 occurred to try to bring peace and order to Cuba. After it ended and Cuba was free from Spanish rule, America began to think that the Caribbean and Central America needed peace and order as well. Countries in these areas were very poor, underdeveloped, and undereducated. A bunch of different families were struggling for control, and especially in the Caribbean, most money was earned and taken by the military. So yeah, America decided to supervise all of Caribbean and Central America with its military. That's imperialism. Anyway, it was about this time, 1902, Venezuela got itself into a bit of trouble. Castro, the dictator, had refused to honor debts that were owed to European nations. As you can probably tell, this didn't make Europeans very happy. To try to make Venezuela pay up, Germany and Great Britain blockaded their harbors and destroyed much of their navy. However, with America supervising Venezuela, and with the help of the Monroe Doctrine, Europeans decided to call off the attack. After that, in 1903, the Dominican Republic got itself into trouble with Europe. They managed to default on $40 million in bonds, and according to Carnes and Garrity, when European investors urged their governments to intervene, Roosevelt announced that under the Monroe Doctrine, the United States cannot permit foreign nations to intervene in Latin America. But he added Latin American nations should not be allowed to escape their obligations. Man, the Monroe Doctrine was a flippin' lifesaver. To make the Europeans happy, Roosevelt decided to take control of the Dominican's Customs Service and exercised an international police power in the Dominican Republic. This policy worked out for the most part. The U.S. collected customs from the Dominican Republic, and the finances of the country were put in order. That was pretty much it for imperialism in Central America and the Caribbean. Now let's move on to the Panama Canal. Speaking of Panama, here comes the mystery document. Whoosh! The mystery document is the thing we're going to do every episode. Basically, I read a document and try to figure out who the author is. If I get the author correct, then I get to live a nice and happy life. If I don't get it correct, take the shock pen and shock myself. Dear Sir, your letter of the 27th last month and the release map of the proposed Panama Canal were duly received. I note what you have to say about my taking the American dictatorship. The position was tendered to me and declined under the ground that I do not believe the project feasible in the first place, and I should oppose it at any rate under any European management. My judgment is that every dollar invested in the Panama Canal under the present scheme of a thorough cut or sea level will be sunk without any returns to the investor and without a canal to promote commercial interests. If I was to advise the investment of money in the scheme, I would feel that I was advocating a swindle equal to the South Sea Bubble. I do not accuse of the advocates, nor a great number of them, of the de Lesseps scheme of insincerity or dishonesty, but I would be dishonest if I were to advocate it, because I do not believe the proposed plan practicable with any amount of money that can be raised, nor that interest can be paid on it by all of the commerce the canal could carry if built, to say nothing of the human lives that would be sacrificed in its own construction. Okay, so this was written back when the Panama Canal was going to be built by France, so I'd say sometime in the 1880s. Since he's declining the offer of building the Panama Canal, he must be someone important to do something like that. Maybe the president, so that would either be Ulysses S. Grant or Rutherford Hayes. I'm gonna take a guess, because I don't know exactly which one. Rutherford Hayes? Alright. Well, here it goes with the shock pen. Wait a second. This isn't my shock pen. This is my atomic bomb pen.
Hi, I'm John Green, and this is Crash Course U.S. History. Today we're going to talk about American imperialism, mainly in Panama. During American imperialism in Central America, the United States' main purpose, or at least one of the main purposes, was to create a canal that basically went from the Pacific to the Atlantic Ocean. This way, American ships could be easily transported from the Pacific to the Atlantic Ocean and vice versa. The most likely place that this would happen would be in Panama, where the oceans were split by only about 50 miles of land, which was very short compared to other places. The French had already started work on this project, but they ran into many problems, and with the $40 million that they spent, they barely got anywhere. In January of 1903, the Secretary of State asked Colombia if, in return for $10 million and an annual rent of $250,000, the United States could build the Panama Canal. However, the entire Colombian Senate rejected this offer, instead of wanting $15 million directly from the United States and $10 million to be paid to the French who had already started work on this project. Obviously, this did not go over very well with the Americans. According to Carnes and Garetti's American Destiny, once again, when Panamanians, egged on by the French company, staged a revolution against Colombia in November 1903, Roosevelt ordered the cruiser Nashville to Panama. The Panamanian Revolution succeeded, and soon afterwards Roosevelt was able to recognize the new Republic of Panama. After that, the Secretary of State then asked the new Panamanian governor if they could build the Panama Canal on the same grounds that Colombia had rejected previously. Thankfully, this time, the governor accepted, and the Panama Canal was eventually built. And finally, by 1914, the Panama Canal had successfully been constructed and was open for business. So there you have it. America, after isolating itself for several years, finally opened itself back up again to focus on foreign affairs and expansion. In Central America, it helped the Dominican Republic and Venezuela get back up on their feet, and they built the Panama Canal. I hope you enjoyed the first episode of Crash Course U.S. History. I'm John Green. The script for this episode was written by Logan Kastner and Joe Shuddy. Gee, I wonder who that is. Please subscribe to see future episodes of Crash Course History, and as they always say in my hometown, don't forget to be awesome.